ATM Hotep, which is welcome and peace. And this is your brother Wujao Menib Maat. And it is Thursday, August 19th, and it's very late on the East Coast. It's almost 11 o'clock p.m. But decided to go live, like we do out the blue, completely unannounced, just to kind of have a quick discussion and do a video, and it'll be up in the archives. This particular topic is a topic that comes up every now and then. It doesn't come up as much as it used to, but the title of this live stream is Dendera Lights Explained, Revisit of a Revisit of a Revisit. All right. So as you can tell by the title, Revisit of a Revisit of a Revisit, is that this topic has been covered many, many times by me personally, by the Sesh a few times. I dealt with this topic back in, I want to say 2010. I did an article as far back as 2013. And even on Facebook, on Facebook back then, 2012, 2013. And so, for me, it's a revisit of 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 a revisit. You just keep putting it on. But I bring this up now because it was recently pointed out to me, brought to my attention that, it popped up again. So just want to kind of talk about it and actually go over the article I did back in 2013. So just want to kind of go through the article because a lot of people may not be familiar with the article, for whatever reason. Pseudoism and, the fantasy aspect, the romanticization of Egypt, that's very, very, very popular. It gains more traction, it's more attractive, and the whole nine. So when you're talking about what things are versus the fantasy aspect of it or interpretations, you're in an uphill battle, because fantasy wins. Everybody wants to be entertained and live in a fantasy. So anyway, just want to kind of talk about this and go over this. All right. So if you're in the chat, Hotep, if you just joined, peace to you. Let me see. Give a shout out to everybody in the chat. All right. So a few people, 5,000 people watching. Okay. That's good. We got Sonet Mika, son Zane, son Omar, and son Donnie. All right. And by the way, son, I'm not trying to say son as in sunning people, but sen or son, as some people say, sen is the word for brother, and sonnet or sonnet is the word for sister. So if you hear me say that, I'm not trying to belittle anyone. FYI. All right. So just want to dive in. But, if you want to come on the panel and chime in, as we talk about it or as I talk about it, feel free. So let me just post the link real quick as I normally do. And I'm going to jump straight in. Give me 1 second here. And there you are. So click the link. All right, click the link. And that's just interesting. I post a link early, like in the first 5 minutes of going live, first 10 minutes of going live. And it's crazy because not too many people will join the panel to chime in on the conversation. But I see other channels, or even when I participate in other channels, I see people wanting the link. They're like, give me the link. I want to go in. And, that's kind of telling to me because people will chime in on fussing and noisy stuff, noise and fussing. But when it's a nice, slow, point for point conversation, everybody's like, nah, I don't want to click that. Can't do that. Anyway, so click the link. Come on in. So that's the topic for today. Dendera Lights explain a revisit of a revisit of a revisit of a revisit of a revisit. You might as well say, echo. All right. Enough of that. So, and plus, I just want to go live as well to kind of change the atmosphere a bit because I logged on today. I logged on yesterday. And, when I say logged on, I mean on social media and everything, Facebook. And I don't know, maybe my timeline and the people I'm connected to, friends and people follow, or I follow them or whatever, it's a certain set of posts and things that pop up all the time. And I don't know, maybe I need to expand a bit because I just keep seeing noise and gossip and stuff like that. And I just don't, sometimes I just don't get it. So I just want to change it up a bit. Not talk about what everybody else is talking about right now and talk about this. So hit the link. So, all right, here we go. So we're going to dive in. So this all started, well, not all started, but the reason why I'm doing this video is because this post was brought to my attention. And make sure you all can see this. Yes. You should be able to see it. Let me definitely verify it. Okay. So you all should be able to see this. Either there's a big delay. Okay, there we are. Okay, so this is a post by someone named Kunsu Nok. And forgive me if I mispronounced that name. Kunsu is pretty simple, but Nok or Nok. So I'm just going to read it. And it wasn't an hour ago from now, by the way. This was a screenshot that someone sent me. So I don't know when this was posted. It was recently. Okay, so it says, while it's obvious that the enslavement of millions of Africans improved the European economy and gave their populace more time to create inventions, that is not the origin of the Europeans' invention age that led to the modern era. The origin of the industrial age has its roots not in Europe, but in Europe's investigation of African archaeology in Kush and Kemet. This is why the dates of Egyptological inquiry match exact the dates of European inventions. They literally uncovered the technology in the ruins of Kemet, studied it, and reproduced it. This includes many technologies, but the most revolutionary was the discovery of Kemetic light bulbs and the Kemetic ability to harness electricity, which allowed them to build the Great Pyramids. All right, boy, I wish I could highlight this. To continue, I always have to have my trusty arrow on here. This is where I am. As Europeans stole the technology, they then applied patents to falsely claim what they stole as theirs. A thief is always afraid someone is going to steal what they stole. The Ptolemies, a Greek mulatto dynasty, first tried to steal the technology in the 4th century BCE, but the Kemetic scribes were able to entertain them with tricks or simple tech, arcs, aqueducts, etc., and keep them far away from the true technology. In fact, many of the public engraved examples that expose Kemet's technology come from the Greeks' Ptolemaic period. Where they were trying to claim that they were in possession of these secret technologies. It was not until the 1700s that the Europeans were able to make sense of some of it, but even then, it took them a while to understand a lot of it. By the mid-1800s, they discovered steam-powered vehicles and then eventually aviation, something the Kemetic people understood 5,000 years ago. The last major discovery they stole from Kemet was the science of splitting the atom. Wow. A technology understood but forbidden in Kemet. With this ancient technology in the hands of infants, they will destroy the planet in a short time. I'm not suggesting that all Kemetic people had access to this technology. In fact, it was completely controlled and guarded by the government for national projects, many of which benefited the common man, even if he did not understand the technology used. This was not to deny the masses the benefits, but to protect them from the harms. This is why, even though Kemet had these highly advanced technologies very early on, it endured for thousands of years. Despite all its centuries of high tech, neither Kush nor Kemet ever used it to make a bomb or even a gun. Technology for violence didn't even occur to Ma'at's chosen people. It is because the European took the technology and violently exposed it to the world too soon that in less than 300 years, the world is on the brink of technological self-destruction through a combination of industrial destruction of the environment and high-tech wars. Why tell you of our impending self-destruction? Because there is still a little time to prevent it if we work fast. This requires us reclaiming the technology of our ancestors and using it to improve the world and not just to destroy each other. Only then will the ancient Kushite Kemetic technology's benefits be fully realized. All right. So that was the post. Again, if you're tuning in late, peace to you and welcome. This is a Facebook post from someone by the name of Kansu Nok or Nook. All right. And forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that. So that was recent. It wasn't an hour ago. So like I said, someone had wanted me to check it out. So they sent a screenshot. So so let's see. So okay, and then it shows the picture. So here's the image of the that's on attached to the post. So you can see there's the actual wall in the background, but then everything else is superimposed on the image, on the picture. All right. So there we have it. So this is what prompted me to to talk about this tonight. So again, the link is in the chat, and click the link if you want to chime in on this conversation. So what I want to do, like I said, I've dealt with this. What's that? 2013 from 2021 is what, 8 years? So I've dealt with this 8 years ago publicly, like on Facebook and on our website, seshmedunetcher.com. Okay. 8 years ago. That's when, I did it there. But I believe I dealt with this as far back as 2010. Okay. Just as it came up. But then I said, wait a minute, this is coming up too many times. Let me do a short article on it so I could just give people the link, and it could be shared and everything. All right. So this is the image I have on the site, seshmedunetcher.com, Dendera Lights Explained. Okay. So I'm going to go over the article on what is really going on in these in here. So as far as this image, what is this image really dealing with? So let's get over to that. All right, so here's the article on the website. So this is a live view of the website. So you can go to the website yourself. As a matter of fact, let me post the link in the chat. Give me 1 second, see if I can grab it. And I'm going to post the link to this article in the chat, if it wasn't done so already. Okay, so that's the link in the chat to the website, to the page. All right. The link pinned at the top is the link to come on the panel. All right. So there we go. All right. So let's go over this together. We're going to walk through this. Y'all hanging out. Appreciate you all hanging out and wanted to do this. So let's walk through it. So as you can see, July 19, 2013, Dendera light bulb explained. So we have the picture here. This is the famous picture. If you Google Dendera lights or whatever the case is, this is the picture you're going to see everywhere, And so here's the thing. When you look at this in the mind of 2021, in this, modern era time, when you look at this and somebody says light bulb to you, it looks like a light bulb. It does look like a light bulb. It looks like, a light bulb here, 2 light bulbs. It looks like the filament of a light bulb. Looks like the little screw that's at the bottom of a light bulb that you screw in the socket, and look like it's screwed in to a lamp. It does look like that. But here's the thing: since when does look or lookership become the guiding principle behind reaching a conclusion, though? You never do that. Especially with anything in Egypt. You definitely can't practice lookership. So let's read. So and I'm just gonna read through it. So you're all just gonna read along with me, and I hope it's clear on the screen. Let's see, is it? Should be. Okay, good. All right. So, reading. The it looks like method of teaching is unscientific and unscholarly. And I have to repeat that. The it looks like method of teaching is unscientific and unscholarly. What is the it looks like? What is the it looks like method? Well, it works this way. I think it looks like a tank, a submarine, a light bulb, so it must be true. See how simple that is? It looks like that. It must be true. So, but anyway, the it looks like method of teaching is unscientific and unscholarly. There's a history of gullibility when it comes to explanations of ancient Egyptian cultural phenomena. A case in point, the so-called Dendera light bulbs. This is a picture of a partial wall located in a crypt in the temple dedicated to Het Heru or Hathor, as some people say, located in Dendera, Egypt. Okay. People are under the false impression that these images are depicting ancient light bulbs and conclude the ancient Egyptians made use of light bulbs. These false ideas are repeated and parroted quite often all over the internet and sensationalized on TV shows such as Ancient Aliens. And everybody's familiar with Ancient Aliens. It's quite puzzling that so many people accept these ideas coming from people who don't show a proficiency in the language of the ancient Egyptians in order to convey what the ancient Egyptians said of the images themselves. Out of all of the far-fetched ideas floating around today related to ancient Egyptian cultural phenomena, the people who promote such ideas never, and I emphasize never, give a translation of any inscriptions that accompany such images. Have y'all noticed that? I'm going to wait for this answer. So everybody in the chat, have you noticed if you ever watch shows like Gaia, Ancient Aliens, or Paranormal Phenomena, whatever, all of these different TV shows and YouTube clips and videos, when they talk about something that is extraordinary when it comes to Kemet, they never show the text or translate the text or say what it says. So how many of y'all have noticed that or otherwise? So I'm going to wait for this answer. How many of y'all noticed that? And I know there's a delay. So here comes that awkward wait, that awkward silence. By the way, did anybody, let me check, see if anybody, no one joined the panel yet. That is crazy to me. No one joined the panel. So how about it? I'm waiting for some answers. But let me shout out, we got Damo in the house, June, Brother Zane. I already shout out Zane. Phi Lightentist. See who else we have in the building. Oh, we got Asar Motep. Brooklyn's in the house. No, Asar is from I told y'all last night, Asar is born and raised in Pseudoville, Texas. Right on the other side of the wall from Mexico and Texas. Nah, but shout out. So all right, we got brother Antoine, hush your mouth, in the building somewhere. Anyway, all right, so let's keep going because man, I'm trying to get some interaction here, and man, I gotta like really kick, scream, and holler. Okay, so here we are. Let's see. All right, we got brother Antoine, hush your mouth. So all right, got to making sure I'm being heard. Okay, I'm like, wait a minute, I have no response, absolutely no response, right? And I was like, wait a minute, let me check my microphone, make sure my microphone is on, because that'd have been crazy if I've been talking all this time. All right, so there's some answers, man. It must be a big delay. Okay, so June said it never showed the glyphs. Peace to Sean John. Jehudi Ma'at says never. Phi Lightington says the moment I seen Gaia, I got ancient alien vibes and just went the other way every time. Yeah, see, Gaia or Gaia, boy, man, they are doing it big though. I'm gonna tell you, if pseudoism is packaged and made, into an excellent presentation, Gaia is the epitome. I'm not trying to advertise for it, but I'm just telling you, they have influencers, they have spokesmen, they have advertisements, they have a nice production, videos, everything. They go all out. When I say all out, they go all out. Like really, we need to get on their level in terms of production. The information, nah. No to the information, but yes to the production. All right, so I'm gonna continue. So you all are just walking through this with me. So what are people saying about it? About it, I'm talking about the Dendera light bulbs. All right. What are people saying about it? There's not enough space to include everything people say, but let's deal with the most popular arguments, such as in Egypt. I should put my commentator's voice on. In Egypt, there is this underground crypt at Dendera that was always secret, and only high priests had access to the crypt. It is very hot in there, very narrow, low ceiling, and on the walls, you have these reliefs of what looks like ancient light bulbs. Because we have to question one thing: how did the ancient Egyptians light the inside of their tombs? Now, let me stop because I can't do that voice. According to most mainstream archaeologists, torches were used by the ancient Egyptians to light the pitch black chambers of tombs and temples, yet nowhere on the ceilings is there even the slightest evidence of soot or smoke residue. Also, there isn't enough oxygen inside those tombs with which to support or feed a flame of a torch. It was once inside the king's chamber inside the pyramid of Giza that someone turned off the lights, and immediately we were in pitch darkness. And I said, no problem. I'll just take my lighter from my satchel, and I turned on a lighter and it didn't work. But if the ancient Egyptians had used some kind of electric light to illuminate their passageways, why does the visual evidence exist only in the ancient temple of Dendera? In Egypt, you had different areas of speciality, and Dendera was the area where the knowledge of the light-giving source was kept. And this secret knowledge was kept by the high priest. They were the only one. Now I got to do that voice again. They were the only ones that were privy to this type of information, because Dendera was a special place where this specific knowledge was guarded and kept. Y'all like that, right? Guarded and kept. No, but that's actually taken from the History Channel's Ancient Aliens. This is what they say. This is what they say about it. All right. This is what they say about it. Well, but let's continue. In their book, and I will not pretend to read this title, but it translates as Light of the Pharaohs, High Technology and Electricity in Ancient Egypt. The Austrian authors Peter Krause and Reinhard Habeck puts forth an electric thesis and says this of the carvings. Quote, the walls are decorated with human figures next to the bulb-like objects reminiscent of oversized light bulbs. Inside these bulbs, there are snakes in wavy lines. The snakes' pointed tails issue from a lotus flower, which, without much imagination, can be interpreted as the socket of a light bulb or socket of the bulb. Something similar to a wire leads to a small box on which the air god is kneeling. Adjacent to it stands two armed jed pillars as a symbol of power, which is connected to the snake. Also remarkable is the baboon-like demon holding two knives in his hands, which are interpreted as a protective and defensive power. I want you all to notice that there is no indication or hint to even talk about text. Like, you wouldn't even know there's text around these images, glyphs, text, or anything. All right. So anyway, here are the authors. Here's a picture of the authors, Peter Krause and Walter Garn and Reinhard Habeck in 1982, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Next, this was made popular by Austrian electrical engineer Walter Garn. So Walter Garn, I believe, is in the middle here. And he actually made a model. Okay, so he constructed a working model, exactly. This is a summary of how these images are being misinterpreted as a result of the "it looks like" method of analyzing Egyptian records. So now I know this is probably small on the screen, and let me see what will happen if I make it bigger. All right. So hopefully you all can see this. I'm going to wait a second because I believe it's probably off the screen. A little bit off the screen, but it's bigger. So these parts are numbered, and so you have the priest is number 1, number 2, the ion filament, and so on and so forth. So they number them, and this is how they label them in their book. All right, so let me go back over here. And so I have them listed here, spelled out. Okay, so we have the priest, the ionized fumes, electric discharge, which would be the snake. Number 4 would be the lamp socket, the lotus. Number 5 would be the cable, which is this cable here, or the stem of the lotus plant. They're saying it's a cable. 6, the air god, which is Shu here. 7 is the isolator, okay, which is the Jed pillar. 8, light bringer, thought with knives. Okay, I don't know what knives have to do with lighting a light bulb though, but hey, maybe, Anyway, number 9, symbol of current. I guess number 9 is the seated woman. 10, inverse polarity. Where is 10? 10 is here. Okay, that must be inverse polarity. Okay. And 11, energy storage, electrostatic generator. That's number 11 right here. So there you have it. Now we can go home. Y'all can go to bed. We have now found out that the Egyptians had electricity and how they did it. There you go. All right. But no, that's not where we're going to stop. So this is the image that they're using, that they're going. Let me see if I click on it. Okay, no, it's not bigger. Let me see if I can produce a bigger shot of this for you all. Real quick here. Give me 1 second. Am I able to do it? And the answer is not at the moment. I don't think so. No. So I don't want to take time trying to blow that up. But you all have seen this. Okay. So this is the image that they're using. But here's the thing. You see the text right here? These are glyphs. It's saying something. These are glyphs up here above the so-called light bulb. It's saying something. Just in this very small cropped image, we see text right in front of the figure. We see text right above the so-called light bulb. But what is it saying? Nothing. Nobody bothers to tell us what it says. So let's keep going. This misinterpretation completely ignores the inscriptions found all around the images, not depicted in this image. When viewing an ancient Egyptian temple wall that contains both inscriptions and vignettes, images or depictions, those inscriptions and vignettes nearly always go together and must be viewed and interpreted as a unit. One does not necessarily make sense without the other. This is how the ancient Egyptians perceived it, which of course means this is how you are obliged to view it, or obligated to view it. If you want to make real sense of a decorated wall, you must immediately divorce yourself from the modern attitudes, values, and perceptions and assumptions, and try diligently to think like the ancient Egyptians would have. Most, if not all, Egyptian concepts are not in isolation and can be compared to more than one instance of the same expression elsewhere in Egypt. That's very important because Egypt was definitely about redundancy and repetition. A lot of things were repeated in a lot of different places in Egypt. Hardly anything was done in isolation. All right. Next, what are these images depicting? In order to explain what these images are, we have to detour a little and gain some insight on the background, use, and function of the temple. In other words, context. That is a big word, context. German author Frank Dornenberg has done a good job addressing many of the claims made by the proponents of the electric thesis. He says this of the lookalike method. The way some authors work, pulling some details out of the context and molding them together to create a new reality, will produce spectacular results, but not reliable ones. Egyptian reliefs have the characteristic not to be located simply connectionless in the area. We find them usually in temples or graves. Unlike today's general purpose churches, Egyptian temples normally serve social purposes. Temples in Egypt were normally dedicated to certain gods and associated festivals. All right. And this is from his publication, Mysteries of the Past. And there's a link on the page. So again, go to the page if you want to click the links and do further investigation on these sources. All right. So what is commonly called the Dendera Temple is located 2.5 kilometers southeast of Dendera, Egypt. It was part of a temple complex originally called Unit, or Unit, as some people pronounce it, in Medew Netcher, Sesh Netcher, or Rani Kemet, the language of the ancient Egyptians. The whole complex covers some 40,000 square meters and is surrounded by a hefty mud brick enclosed wall. Dendera was the site for chapels or shrines from the beginning of the history of ancient Egypt. There is evidence that Pharaoh Pepi I, approximately 2250 BC, built on this site, and evidence exists of a temple in the 18th dynasty, about 1500 BC. But the earliest extant building in the compound today is the Memisi, raised by Nectanibu II, last of the native pharaohs, which dates to roughly 360 BC. The features in the complex include, so you have we're talking about the whole complex, but you have the temple, or Het Heru's temple, the main temple, the temple of birth of Osset, the sacred lake, the sanatorium, the Memisi, the Christian Basilia, the Roman Memisi, a bark shrine, gateways of Domitian and Trajan, and a Roman kiosk. Okay, these are all the elements there. Now, the main temple is called Hathor's Temple today, but was originally called Ta Unit Netcheret, she of the divine pillar. Okay, so if you didn't know that, now you know. In dedication of the goddess Het Heru, or Hut Heru. Het Heru was known, among other things, as a goddess of joy, and she was deeply loved by the general population and truly revered by women who aspired to embody her multifaceted role as wife, mother, and lover. In this capacity, she gained the titles of Lady of the House of Jubilation and the one who fills the sanctuary with joy. All right. The worship of Hathor was so popular that a lot of festivals were dedicated to her honor than any other Egyptian deity. And more children were named after this goddess than any other deity. Even Hathor's priesthood was unusual in that both women and men became her priests. She was also known as the mistress of the festival of the drunkenness of the mistress of Dendera, in which it is said the pharaoh danced with the wine amphora of the goddess. The temple and its crypt, in which the mysterious figures are, serves a purpose. So now we're getting to where these images are. The yearly cycle of the sun, the new year and its celebrations. The complete temple is dedicated to this topic. The temple was separated in a large number of cult rooms. Relics were stored in these cult rooms. That's very, very important, y'all. Relics were stored in these cult rooms, like in today's churches, and the walls contain text about the dedicated festivals. The most expensive relics were stored between festivals in those crypts for safekeeping. And some of those expensive relics were as inscriptions there say, it's important, shrines which were carried around in the processions. During the festivals, the objects were taken out of the shrines and placed in the cult rooms. Every crypt contains pictures and inscriptions about the objects stored therein, which purpose, what statue had, how big they were, what materials they consisted of, and what was done with them during the New Year's Eve festival. And therefore, we have a fixed connection between the objects stored in the crypts, their description there, and in the cult rooms, and the festival celebrated there. So let's take a look at the festival celebrate at Dendera. Okay, so let's pause here for a second. So, quick summary. This temple has a function. The rooms inside this temple, the cult rooms and the crypts, these underground crypts, rooms, they were actually storage rooms where artifacts were kept and stored in between festivals. During the festival, the priest would go inside the room, bring out the artifacts, use them in the festival, use them in the procession, the parade, and all the celebrations. And when all the events and festivities were over, they put them back in storage. So we're looking at an ancient Egyptian U-Haul storage place. Okay? Just so you know. Not the temple itself, but the underground crypt rooms. They're U-Haul storages. You know, to compare. So this is the temple. This is the front of the temple. You know, typical picture. If you Google Dendera, you'll see. You know, if you want to see a bigger picture. Now here's the floor plan, the layout. So this is the front. So not sure if it's showing the whole thing on your screen. Let's see. Not quite. But down here is the entrance. So the entrance comes in this way from the bottom of this screen. Okay. So just so you know. And you walk in, and so there are underground crypts, you know, and there were stairs. There were things led down to go down in the basement. It's like a basement where these would go beneath the floor level, the ground floor level. And so you had these storage rooms, and then you had the actual cult rooms. So along the edge here, along the outer edge, notice that, okay, let's take M as in Mary up here where my cursor is. This room had the stairway to reach S, C, B, A, D, and E. These 5 storage rooms. To get to this storage area over here, you got to go through the cult room R, and you go down the steps here. Okay, so just wanted to point that out. All right, that's just a quick floor plan. Now the pictures above are the front entrance of the Temple of Het Heru and its floor plan. The crypts are the small rooms in the three walls, east, south, and west, surrounding the hall with the cult rooms. The light bulb crypt is labeled as C, chamber C of the south crypt. So this is south and chamber C. So let's go back to see where that is. That's right here. Okay. So if any of you travel to Egypt and have had an opportunity to visit the Dendera temple, you may remember this layout. You know, if you were led to this crypt, because you know that's a tourist attraction. So you know, they're definitely gonna present that to you, you know, and as an aha moment, like, wow, you know. So you know, I don't know if you've been there. I don't know if you remember going through one room. You got to go down the steps. You make a left, and then you're gonna go down. You're gonna go through a narrow spot, down more, down more, down more. It's like you're going a little further downward, but you're gonna go into the last room. SC is where these so-called light bulb images are. So it's in the corner of a temple, the back corner at that. Okay. Okay, so the light bulb crypt is labeled SC, is located above the room labeled I or L. Let's say I or L. HI, yeah, GHI. So it's I. All right. And can be entered with the stairs shown in room M. And that's what I showed you up here. M. The rooms were dedicated to the following festivals. So room D was for the new dressing of Osir or Osiris. And that's D, which will be A, B, C. Where's D? I am not finding D on here. I'm looking too fast. Oh, D's right here, right in front of my face. So D is for the new dressing of Osiris. Room F was for the Sokar festival. Room G was used for many festivals, from the crypt with the light bulbs at C. Let me just read. The said festival, a 30-year throne jubilee, the festival of the new moon of the 4th month of the Peret, the last month of Peret, which is the first season. Excuse me, the second season. The day of Wen Renepet, which is the New Year's festival, the night of the child in his nest, festival of the New Year, Tep Renepet, and from the last crypt in the eastern wall, OG, we have the 10-day festival. From the east wall of the crypt before it, we have the festival going to the festival place on the eastern shore of Dendera, and so on. So I'm not going to read all these, but this is the purpose of each of these rooms. They're all associated with festivals, what to do during the festival, what happens during the festival, and different items that are used. Okay, so those are rooms all the way to room L. Now, with the exception of the festivals in room K, which serve the purpose of enthronization of the king and his said festival, all of the rooms serve season festivals. Most of them are new moon or new year festivals. The festivals celebrated with the help of the light bulb shrines are clearly the said festival, which is the throne jubilee, 2 new moon, 3 new year festivals, and the child in his nest festival, which is another name for the new sun of the new year, a common festival, and the week festival. The Egyptians had a 10-day week. Even more specific are the text around the light bulb pictures. Now remember this. So let me repeat this: that the festival celebrated in the crypt or room where the light bulb images are, the shrines are clearly related to the said festival, the 2 new moon festivals, 3 new year festivals, and the child in his nest festival, which is another name for the new sun of the new year. All right. Even more specific to the text around the light bulb pictures, the picture on the northern wall is dedicated to the said festival and the new moon festival. The 2 pictures on the southern wall are connected with a New Year's festival and the first day of the new year, as we will see later. All right. So yeah, I wish people would jump on this panel here, because I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking. You all are following along. All right, so let's keep riding. Although the temple dates to the late Ptolemaic period, and that's important to know, the temple dates to the late Ptolemaic period. Think about that though for a second. These people are claiming that the ancient Egyptians had electricity, but the proposed imagery of the electricity and the light bulbs happened to be in a much later Greek temple when the Ptolemaic rulers came in and Romans. All right. So although the temple dates to the Ptolemaic period and was built by Greeks, the builders used the Egyptian symbolisms and worldview. Also interesting is an architectural element found on every passage to a group of crypts, a band of inscriptions explaining the usage of the rooms. See, this is why they don't want to translate the text. because the text says it all. It tells you what everything is. All right. Just keep that in mind. The two southern lamp crypts are, according to the text, secluded rooms of the statues of the house of Somptus. And we're going to find out who Somptus is in a minute. Well, actually, right now. Somptus is the Greek rendition of the ancient Egyptian god Samatawi. Samatawi, as a personification, was the uniter of the two lands, to whom the crypts were dedicated to. All right, keep that in mind. Somptus is the god of the unity of the two lands, known from the Old Kingdom on, but he didn't play a great role until the late New Kingdom. Then he emerges as Har Somptus, which is Her or Heru Simatawi. Har Simatawi, Heru, the uniter of the two lands, a personification of the sky, and also as Ra Somptus, which is Ra Simatawi. So we have Heru Simatawi and Ra Simatawi, which is a personification of the sun, especially the new rising sun. Okay, so Heru represents the personification of the sky. Ra Simatawi represents the personification of the sun. So the sky and the sun. This last form was preferred in Dendera. He is often shown as a snake. Okay, y'all get that? He's shown as a snake. The crypts are full of inscriptions explaining the objects with all details necessary to understand everything about these objects, what their purpose was, from which materials they were made, their size, how they were used, and how the procession was done. Neither the festivals of the temple nor the names of the statues have anything to do with lamps or electricity. And repeat that. Neither the festivals of the temple nor the names of the statues have anything to do with lamps or electricity. So we have to look at what the Egyptians themselves wrote about the images. All right. So let's dig in a little bit. So here are the details. And so, here's a little gallery of images. Now, what I want you to notice on this first image, look at all of the text around these images, all of the glyphs. All of these glyphs are ignored by people. Let me just see if I can get a bigger picture for you all. Can I do that? Let's see if it's possible, because I want you all to really see this. Let's see. Do I have it? Trying to get a big shot. Nope. Aha, I think this is it. Okay, I think this is it. I just want to show you an example though. Here's an example. I'm showing you what is ignored. Okay, so here we have an image. Now, down here, let me get my trusty arrow here. So you see down here, these are the two light bulbs, so-called light bulbs right here. On the end, this is at the corner. This is at the corner of the crypt. First of all, this is a crypt at the end of the temple in the basement. And then the light bulbs is in the corner of it. But look at all of the glyphs. Look at all of the glyphs above here. Look at they go along here. They go all along here. The glyphs are all above here. And we know that in front of every figure, these glyphs are saying something related to the figure. These glyphs related to this figure. These glyphs to this figure. These glyphs this side. These glyphs to this side. But why? You got to ask yourself, why don't they ever translate the text? I'm going to tell you why. Because if they did, the jig is up. Period. Jig is up. No more tourist attraction. You know, no more ancient aliens. What they have it views and stuff like that. All right, anyway, let's keep going. And everybody, listen, everybody should recognize this right here. Let me pause for a minute. For all you up and coming Sesh in the chat right now, what does this first part say right here? Let me turn my arrow around. What does this say right here? And I'm going to wait for this, definitely. Put y'all to work.
Looks like G.
Oh, Hotep, I didn't even know you were in here.
I just came in. Hotep, everybody. It's good to be here again.
All right, Hotep. Okay, so I'm sorry. Repeat what you said. What is this?
Looks like G, a snake, a G snake.
Yep.
And it looks like a Y. I mean, it's a transliteration, but G
Okay.
and a read, two reads. So G and G N.
Okay, let me give you a hint. This is the walking staff right here. So where have you seen this before with the snake, the walking staff, the reed leaf, and the water ripple? Those four glyphs.
Oh.
That's a very common formula. Let me check with the chat. Anybody in chat? Nope, nobody in chat. I know that there's a delay in the chat, so maybe somebody will. But I'll just say it because I don't want to. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I can just say it's Jed Medew.
Yep, exactly. Jed Medew, which is words spoken by, and we know that when we see the Jed Medew formula, we know there's going to be a name and or epithets, but definitely a name that comes after it. So Jed Medew all set. We see the high chair throne, bread loaf, etc. And she's the great. We see Waret. The word Waret. So on and so forth. So I don't want to give it too much away, but I'm saying these texts say something and everybody ignores it. Everybody ignores it. And we're going to find out who this is. Look at that. See? Another Jed Medew. And this is Har Simatawi. So this figure right here, this falcon with the plume, the double plume and the sun disk, that is Har Simatawi. Right there. Clear as day. All right, but let's keep going. So let me switch back over here. Where were we? Okay, let's go back. All right, so I'm back on the website. Okay, so now this image here is the image that I just showed you, but it's further to the right. Okay, so here's Offset seated, and you see Jed Medew and Offset right here, so it's showing more. Okay, just to kind of put you there. This is the image that I showed just now, but a smaller version. All right, so let's keep reading. It should be noted that the so-called light bulb image is found in several places on the walls in the crypts of the temple. Many people are under the impression that there is only one. The crypt being discussed, labeled SC for the southern chamber, in the above temple floor plan contains 5 reliefs that correspond to the 5 festivals spoken of in the corresponding cult room. So let's go back up here for a second. The cult room that SC goes to is the I. In here is 5 festivals, and in here are the 5 descriptions and what takes place. They go together. All right, but let's go back down. Now, of these 5 reliefs, 2 of them have images of the so-called light bulb. The two pictures above are snapshots of the majority of the south wall of Crypt SC. That's these two images, the south wall. As we can see, no, wait a minute. Yeah, we can see the double so-called light bulbs are in the far left, and that was way over here. Okay, we can see that. As we can also see, there are many inscriptions that accompany the images. These inscriptions are ignored by those who use the look-like method. Let's take a look at some of these details. All right, so here is the same image, but now we're straight on with the falcon. So we're right here. We're right in front of this falcon, and you can see the falcon down here. Okay, so now we have an up close and personal image of it. Now what I've done, I've labeled or numbered the columns so that we can follow along with the transliteration and translation. Okay, so at this point, there's no excuse. So column number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's 9 columns of text. And so we're going to go over it. So I'm just showing you the image, and we're going to go over them. So in this picture, we can see Har Simatawi in the form of a falcon. And I told you can see his name, Jed Medew N Har Simatawi. All right. And you can even see the Netcher. So we say Netcher Ah. So Jed Medew N Har Simatawi, Netcher Ah. Then we have Her Ib. And then you have the location unit or unit, which is the ancient name of Dendera. All right. So hopefully you all see that. Again, Jed Medew N, words spoken by Har Simatawi, which is the deity, Netcher, the great god. Her Ib, which means who is upon the inner part, which we simply say who resides in. And then the location, a unit, which is Dendera. That's simple. But let's just read all of them, because I can't hold the picture here. I want you all to walk through all 9. All right. So now in this picture, we see him in the form of a falcon as well as a form of a serpent emerging from the lotus. Now check this out. He's coming out of the lotus in the form of a serpent here, but there's no atmosphere around this time, and the lotus and himself, his personification, is on a lotus bark. All right, but we're going to read the text that's right here in front of it, and it reads. Well, we also see the solar bark with the bow of the boat made from lotus flower. The inscriptions in the right of the 3 columns just above the serpent, along with the inscriptions beside the serpent, marked as 1 and 2 reads. So we have Jed Medew N, Her Simatawi, Netcher Ah, Her Ib, Unet, Nebu, Shesep 4, Bia, Menjet, Seshin Nebu. Now, that's this part here. So again, we have Nebu. So it's Nebu, Shesep. Then we have 4. 1, CBC 4 strokes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we have Bia. That's the vulture for the word for mineral or some type of metal. And then we have Menjet, which is the boat, see? And then we have Seshin, which is the lotus. And then Nebu, again, of gold. So it's telling you what was stored in this crypt and what it's made of. All right. So Bi is the word for metal, some kind of metal. Then we had a lotus made of gold, Nebu. All right. So here's a translation. Words spoken by Har, uniter the 2 lands, the great god who resides in central Dendera, in the inner part. That's what Ib, the essence, the inner part. Gold height 4. Okay. So he is made of gold and 4 cubits. Or say 4 hands. All right. The day solar bark made of metal, the lotus flower of gold. So this is made of metal, but the flower part was made of gold. Now it could either be this lotus flower part made of gold, or the one in the boat made of gold. Y'all follow that? Hopefully y'all follow that, because I can't get you all's reaction and interaction. All right. So this is very, very simple.
Yeah, yeah. Excuse me. I don't want to coach your flow, but you mentioned the thing about the serpent in gold. I remember the count of the naufrag. I don't know how to pronounce it in English right now. The man whose ship was sink, and only he survived, and he fallen in the island which has a great serpent made of gold, and her eyes was of emerald. Maybe it had some connection.
Wait, are you talking about the shipwreck sailor?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Taylor shipwreck sailor, where he gets shipwrecked on the island and he runs into a very large, big, oversized snake.
Yeah. And her skin was made of gold.
And this is what I meant earlier when I said that there in Egypt, it's very rare that you're going to find anything in isolation, because this culture was alive and everything connected to everything else, in the culture. So there's some continuity in the symbolism and what it meant to the people. And so that's a very good tie-in, because it's connected, because the skin of the gods were made of gold. You have different, like, such as the serpent or snake, skin made of gold, eyes of emerald, and so on. All right. None of this is literal, hopefully people are past that at least. Okay, so let's keep going. So that's column 1 and 2. Okay, column 1 and 2. And I wish I could show a big picture at the same time we read, but I can't do both. So now let's go through some of the remaining. So the inscriptions in the remaining 2 columns left of that, and directly above the falcon, which is 3 through 5. So we're dealing with 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so this 5 is a little bit here. All right. And you can see another Jed Medew in. So we have Har, Simatawi again, and so on. So you can see this repeat. So watch. So we have Jed Medew in. Let's keep going up here. Yeah, Netcher A again. All right. So we have Jed Medew in, Har Netcher A, Her Ib unit, which is the same thing, who resides in the inner part of Dendera. All right. Except it's extended where you have Dendera right here. I hope y'all can see my cursor. Dendera is here, but in the next inscription, it's up here. So over here we have Her Ib right here, but up here we have Her Ib on top of each other. Okay, just to show you the difference. And then we go on to say Sab. So we have Sab here. Where we see that. So we have Sab. And this is, if I had a bigger picture, you'd be able to see it a lot better. And maybe I'll just do a slide with the full image. But we have Sab, and then we have Shut. So I'll just keep reading. So we have Sab, Shut, Petzarek, Nebu, Meh1. And so Meh1, so Nebu, Meh1, which is here, the single stroke. And so what does that mean? The translation is words spoken by Har, uniter of the 2 lands, which is the same deity, the great god who resides in central Dendera, the multicolored feathered one. So you see how he's wearing the multi-feathered plume. So he's the multicolored feathered one who is on the Sorek, gold, height 1 cubit. So he's perched on a Sorek. Now, where have you ever seen that before?
Pita
Say it again.
is a sign of Pita, the head.
Okay, well,
So Iman and Pita.
okay, but I'm okay. That's good. But what I'm asking is the falcon perched on a Sarek.
Okay.
Where are we familiar with that?
It's in one of the royal names.
Yes. That is one of the king's names. That is the earliest and oldest of the king's name. It is the Heru name, where the falcon is perched on the Sarek. So this is part of the enthronement of the king's festival. Remember what I was reading earlier. All right, so just want to point these things out. Now, the inscriptions in the 4 columns to the left of the falcon, which is above the standing figure 6 through 10, read, and so now we're dealing with 6 through 10. All right, and I don't know why I say 6 through 10 when you can't see 10, but it's 6 through 9. So it reads, words spoken by Ihi, the great, the son of Het Heru, Ra in its form of the great God, who appears with the diadem as a king of Egypt and as a master of the said festival. You reign over Dendera millionfold from eternity to the completion of the Jed, eternity, gold, height 1 cubit. Okay. So again, so you can't see what's here to the left in this crop picture, but this text is pertaining to this. All right. So I just want everybody to understand. So you have Jed, Medew, and Ihi here in column 6. All right. And we have Netcher Ah. You can see Netcher Ah again. All right. So again, if you're reading this in the direction in which they should be read, which is what we're doing, we're going from the right and walking our way down. Now we only jumped in the middle right here. There's images and text to the left, to the right of this, excuse me. And we will walk through. None of it mentions light bulbs. None of it mentions switches, controls, electricity, none of that. It's plain to see what this was for and what it was used for. All right. So now we're getting to the other side of this falcon and this standing figure here, which by the way is the deity Ihi. So let me see if I can get a big, you see him standing here. Okay. So this text deals with him, the great god Ihi, who is the son of Het Heru. Okay. So you'll know who you're dealing with. So Google, look up Ihi. All right. As the son of Hathor, Het Heru. Now we're going to get over here. Now we're finally at the light bulbs. Now, so far, there's no implication for the use of electric light bulbs. Everything within the inscriptions are standard ancient Egyptian symbolisms embedded in the culture. The inscriptions speak about the descriptions of the artifacts stored in the crypt chambers of the temple, what they were made of, what they represent, and for which festival they belong. Now, to move toward the left of the south wall to the so-called double light bulbs. All right, so now we're at this image. This is the picture of the famous so-called double light bulbs. It's located in the south, at the end of the south wall. There are 2 sets of inscriptions above the light bulbs that are only partially visible in this picture, so you can only see part of it here. But seen in full in the first picture at the top of this article. So we go up here, you'll see you can see the images here. So if I want to click it, you can see all of the text here. And I'm not sure if you all can see that very good, but you see all of the inscriptions above it right here. Not a very good view because it's small, but it's text and we can read it. So let's go ahead. Let's read it. Go back down. Okay. So The inscriptions above the figures read. So here's what the inscriptions read. So we have words spoken by Har Simatawi. Let me put this up so you can read with me. Words spoken by Har Simatawi, the Great, who resides in Dendera, the living Ba, in the lotus flower of the day solar bark, whose perfection the two arms of the Jed pillar carry as its image, while the Kas on its knees are with bent arms, gold, all precious stones, height 3 hands. So it's telling you what this is made of and what it is. Has nothing to do with lights. It's the Ba and the Ka, the living Ba, and the Ka on its knees with bent arms. All right. What else? The inscription above the figure on the left reads, so that was on the right. This is the figure. So this is on the right. Okay. Then there's a break. Then we do with the figure on the left. Words spoken by Har Simatawi, the Great, who resides in Dendera, who was in the arms of the prince in the night solar bark. So we're dealing with the day and the night. The noble snake, whose statue is carried by He, whose Ka carries his perfection in holiness, because of whose Ba appearing in the sky, whose shape is admired by admirers, who comes as unique, enveloped by his serpents, with numerous names in the land of Atum, the father of the gods, who created everything, gold, metal, height 4 hands. So it's telling you what it's made of. So all of these things have to deal with festivals. These are artifacts that are marched in a procession. The artifacts themselves are gone. These temples and crypts were looted. All these artifacts were been stolen and everything, but the walls tells us what was in it. These were statues in here. These were statues and artifacts and all kinds of things in here. They're gone. All right. So, what else? So here, here's some extra information about the Manjet and Mesquite, which are the sacred barks. We have the lotus flower that's being used, which is really a lily, called Seshin. Then we have the deity He. Some information about the deity He. The Jed pillar, little information about that. And then we have the bubble. And this is what a lot of people don't realize is that serpent inside of an atmosphere, or what have you, is an actual glyph. It's a glyph in the inventory of glyphs. And guess what? That glyph does not appear until the Ptolemaic era. There's no such old kingdom, middle kingdom, and even late glyph like that. It's from the Ptolemaic era on. This glyph right here. And the glyph actually spells out the word Etirti. And it's actually a word that means primordial sanctuaries, a sacred place. That's what the word means. All right, so I just want everybody to understand what we're dealing with. So I want to read the conclusion, and that's gonna be it. So conclusion.
Good job. Before you read the conclusion, was you saying that the serpent was not in the glyph before?
No, I'm saying this entire glyph did not exist. The entire glyph did not exist.
So that initial article, Facebook post where the person was talking about all this stuff being stolen from quote unquote us, that doesn't really, even if obviously it's not a light bulb, but even if we were just to pretend that it's a light bulb, you could rightfully say that it was the Greek who came up with that,
Yep, the Ptolemies, The Ptolemaic era, that's when that glyph became added to the inventory of glyphs. So here's a FYI. The ancient Egyptians had about approximately 750 to 1,000 glyphs in the writing system from the Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, and the Late. It wasn't until the Ptolemaic era of time and coming towards the present that there was a major influx of more glyphs added to the writing system. And it almost reached roughly 7,000 glyphs. So it went from 1,000 to 7,000, give or take. Okay, and this is one of the glyphs that was added way later. All right, so just to give you some context. All right, so the conclusion. The look-like method of discernment is unscientific and unreliable. Context must be considered. The ancient Egyptians did not have a concept of art as we have today. What we call beautiful decorations had a purpose, intent, and meaning that was holistic, interconnected with the worldview. When viewing ancient Egyptian temple walls that contain both inscriptions and these beautiful images, we must treat them as a whole. In most, if not all, cases of the far-fetched explanations of Egyptian cultural phenomenon, those that promote such ideas neglect to give a translation of the inscriptions that accompany the images. For instance, take the picture above the bubble. With the look-like method, people can easily say that these objects are proof that there were ancient race of reptilians who used hot air balloons for transportation. Because see how it looks like these reptilian serpents are inside of look like a hot air balloon? I mean, we could say anything.
Right.
All right. Where we at? Yeah. This couldn't be further from the truth. However, something like that would indeed receive much attention and acceptance. One of the reasons for such an acceptance is the psychological phenomenon called pareidolia, which is based on the brain's natural inclination to seek and recognize familiar patterns, a natural face recognition program of the brain. Okay, and I'm going to show you some examples. This principle is the basis for the object face recognition software applications. People today are very familiar with the light bulb and how it looks, and when looking at unknown objects, the brain will try to identify it with something familiar. The same principle is at work when faces are seen in the clouds. This is why context is so important. Corroboration is also important, especially in a society such as ancient Egypt, where there was an overall holistic and well interconnectedness throughout the land. The inscriptions accompanying the images provide the necessary context for proper interpretation of the images. They describe the images as representations of statues used for various festivals associated with the temple, stored in the crypts. They describe the materials and the dimensions of the statues. These festivals were well known and commonly observed by the ancient Egyptians throughout the land for millennia. The symbols are directly related to the cosmogony and cosmology of the people. Period. All right. So, I mean, that's that. And I don't even know who all is in here. Oh, it's just us four. Okay. So y'all have any questions about that?
No, I'm okay.
All right. Emicat, Zane?
Yeah, you didn't talk about the nuclear energy that they had.
The nuclear energy. The nuclear energy. The so let me see if I can show you all some examples of
solar energy.
Yeah, the solar energy. The give me 1 second. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you all some examples. All right, here we go. This is gonna be funny. All right, here you go. I'm going to show you some examples. Now, this is from. Okay, am I logged in? I have to log in to view. Wow, it won't let me show it unless I log in. That's not cool. Okay, that's fine. I'll log in. Just give me 1 second. 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. I want to show you all examples of
pareidolia.
Yes, pareidolia. Definitely.
Yeah, it's crazy because with this kind of articles, you actually see some people who then, to kind of try to, see if that's true or not. I've seen places where people have attempted to build, stuff like that, which is cool because that can be inspiration, like we've seen like designs of things that are actually inspired by certain, things in nature or whatnot. But yeah, some people, go ahead.
I'm sorry, just said it's possible even.
Yes. I mean, obviously, it won't be the same. I mean, you can just be inspired by that, Like you can actually make a bulb that shape, like bulbs come in different shapes, but that's about it,
Okay, so here is pareidolia. It's a phenomenon of face recognition. And as a matter of fact, if anybody, if this your first time hearing about it, definitely Google it. The spelling of it is on the screen and learn about it because it is a built-in thing that we have innately in us as humans. And it is actually part of what allows an infant, brand newborn, to recognize face and their mother and fathers and the family's faces. Okay, so this is how, why does a baby, look at your eyes or look at your face? And so these are built-in, things that we have. So that's what it's called. All right, so I'm going to show you a few of them. You can see it on the screen. I don't know if it's going to pop up big.
Yeah, so this is like
okay,
Jesus toast.
Let me just see if I could push this up a bit so y'all can see it good. All right, hopefully y'all can see all of them. So you see this one, right?
Yeah.
That's a canoe. I believe it's a canoe. Yeah, it's a canoe. You see the paddles behind it? That's a canoe. That's where people sit in. You sit in that. But it actually looks like eyes in the mouth. Okay, so that's one. Here's another one. That looks like a face.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like somebody side-eyeing or something like that. I'm getting shocked.
Side eye. Another one. This is just a noodle.
Yeah, a dog. It's a dog.
Yep, looks like a dog or a wolf or whatever. Here's one right here. Mountains.
You watched it.
Yep. Got a pointy chin, nose.
It was the aliens who made it.
Yep.
True.
The aliens made it. Look at that. A piranha. Look like a fish with sharp razor teeth.
It's the we call it piranha, one of the fish of the sweet water, which devours everything.
Okay, good. Back in the day, I had pet piranha. I bought 30 piranha about the size of my thumb, the size of my thumb, and I bought 30 of them, and when all was said and done, when they got full grown, I only had 3. So they fought each other and ate each other until three kind of got
ferocious.
Yeah, they got along with each other, but they were big. They were like the size of my hand, like my whole hand open. And I used to feed it. These the baby goldfish and stuff. And when my friends come up, I would starve them, and then I would feed them mice.
It's a show. It's a show.
Yeah, I did all that when I was back in the day. But yeah, no joke, no joke. But anyway, that's that one. You see this one right here? Same thing. I'm gonna flip through these pretty fast. So that's that one. Here's one. Here's one where water's coming out. Look like he's crying. The nose. This one. All look like faces. This is a leaf. Just happen to have holes in it. They look like the mask on screen. The movie. What's that? Scary movie.
Yeah.
Somebody would call that an omen.
It's panic. Right? We call it pânico around here in Brazil.
Okay.
The movie.
But what's interesting, see, somebody would see this and associate it with something supernatural or whatever. It's like, see, there's a sign. That's a sign. It's telling me something. You know. What else? Yep, we got a banana. Look like a.
She said.
Oh, that's cute.
Yep, look like a little. There's a coffee. Or whatever. Look at the car vents with the hazards, and the CD player looks like her eyes, nose, and mouth. Regular drain, the water left over from a sink, bathroom sink. A cheese grater. Look at that. Just the angle. Now obviously you got to be standing at this angle to see this, and the two mirrors.
Poltergeist.
A little hinge. An older looking hinge. A house with a big mouth. The basketball thing is for the nose. Look at that. House with open mouth with teeth.
Yeah,
what else? That's a toothbrush, the toothbrush and toothpaste holder in the bathroom.
Yeah, I think I remember it made it on the news one time. Like they thought they see a picture of Jesus on the door of the
yeah.
grain of the rings.
It happens all the time. Here's the bottom of a mouse, a computer mouse. The older ones. A temple, look like Chinese writing. I'm gonna go to it fast. Look at this one. This one like some stuff in his mouth or coming out his mouth, whatever. Whatever that is. That's slick. Look like a house has been smoking some weed or something.
What's a house?
That's the bottom of tennis shoes. Look at that. Bottom of tennis shoes. A red pepper. Mailbox. Yeah, whatever that is. Bathtub, dirty bathtub. Leaf. Tree. Look at that. Shower. Some kind of construction vehicle. Cliff. Anyway, so I can go on and on. It's a lot. And I don't know what that is. Oh, yeah, that's an illusion. Look like a flag. See, this right here, this is an illusion, right? This person is actually standing on the ground. This mat that she's standing on is actually on the ground. But the flag, this is a shadow of a flag that's behind the camera. Whoever took this shot, it makes it look like she's floating, and this flag is the shadow of what she's floating on. Okay, so these are examples of how our human senses are very, very vulnerable. And this is why in the realm of science, eyewitness testimony and human sensory is at the bottom of in terms of value of evidence. Okay, so I just want everybody to understand.
Brings a question, because how did the Africans in general, how they dealt with that when they didn't utilize the script to storage information?
Yeah, so that's
Yeah,
what that's
how
mhm.
because they had to trust in the testimony, only in the testimony.
Well, here's the thing. Today, testimony because we felt okay, so here's the we have to look at it in we have to put ourselves backwards in time, right? Human survival depended on the accuracy of storytelling, getting it right. But they did it in a figurative way, but they had to get it right. Whereas today, we don't depend on that to live and survive because we have computers. We can store information in multiple ways. So for us, we take it for granted. We don't even see the importance. So for us, we'll do an exercise like get a classroom of kids, 30 kids in a classroom, and you've seen this experiment where the teacher will whisper a very short story in the first child's ear, and then that child has to pass it on and whisper in everybody along the line of 30 people. By the time you get to the end, the story is completely different. And that's because our human nature, we don't rely on that for survival. So we don't pay attention and we don't stick to it. Whereas ancient people, they made it a point to retell very accurately. And this is why the importance of eldership was very, very important and prominent to ancient people, because it was the elders of the community that were the storytellers. They were the wisdom keepers. And so it was a very prestige position to be an elder or a wisdom keeper. Whereas today, it's not like that. And so that drop
Yeah,
down of importance makes it seem odd for us to be like, oh man, then how did they rely? So in science today, we don't care about the eyewitness testimony, but back in ancient times, they relied on the storytelling or the passing on of information. Not necessarily eyewitness testimony though either. It was basically the information that was experimented and tested on over
oh,
time.
makes
Yeah.
makes.
So,
Sorry.
go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
Oh no, I just wanted to add to what Wujao said that it is more like like he said, you have the wisdom keepers, so they have to go through special training, and if you've read, I'm pretty sure you've read about like griots and things of that nature. So they had to learn the skill of retelling the story accurately and not even missing a word or embellishing it. And I think even if you read one of the books by Credo Mutua, when it talks the Indaba My Children, he also talks a little bit about that, the storytelling part, where you have to go through that kind of special training, and you do not you retell the story exactly as it was told, and that's a skill in itself as well.
Yep.
Impressed. I didn't know the book, but with what Ujao said, it makes even more sense the key expression of Maheru as a title of prestige.
Yes, exactly. See, those idioms like that, ma cheru, we literally translate it as true of voice, or a voice that is true. And to us, it's kind of like no big deal. Okay, a true voice, like okay, big deal, big deal. But it was an honor. Remember, we have imaku or imaki or imak, which is a venerated person. So these people who were highly venerated were also said to be true of voice. And so that puts it on par with very, very high prestige if your words match your deeds and actions. Your the word, how you think and how you behave and act, they must match. And that was an important tenet in ancient Egypt, but in a lot of ancient populations, because the the accuracy in which somebody can recount something, hesep, which is to recount, or to take an account of something, was a skill, as Emika said, a skill in and of itself. And you're able to do that, then you're seen as a person of integrity. You know,
We can
Makeru.
see. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say Makeru is another way of saying a person with high integrity.
Yeah, you say that. I remember of the Sebaite of Ptahotep. We can get a layout of that kind of exercise when they speak about the action of speak. The speaker has to be caution with what he will say. So we have to he has to filter uh, the words so that they come from the ib and not from the cat, for example. So
Yes.
it's a kind of exercise to be maheru, not to say whatever is on the mind, but be precise with the words, with the not only what is saying, but how it should be said.
Right. And a lot of people see me myself, and it's just a personal thing I do is like when I talk, like even when I go live, I talk, people know me at the very least to be like I try to choose my words carefully and I mean what I say and I say what I mean. And so like I calculate what I'm saying. And for me to do that, a lot of those fast microwave conversations, a lot of the noisy stuff, it doesn't fit in that environment. So I have to slow the conversation down and I got to get rid of the noise because
Man,
I intentionally understand the value of Makeru, the value of integrity, and the skill of andragogy, pedagogy, which is how you teach children and adults and have a meeting of the minds. I know what it takes to do that in terms of the whole concept of communication. And it has to be done this way. In ancient Egypt, they understood it, they exemplified it, and it was done. It was part of the culture. Now that doesn't say that everybody was good at it or whatever, but it was important in the culture to where people strived for that. And you have Medew Nefer, which is eloquent words or eloquent speech, the ability to explain something, you know. Then you have Heka and you have Hu, authoritative utterance. Heka they translate as magic, but all of these things come together. And Sia, the deity Sia, which is perception, awareness. So all these things go together. These are things that people strive and worship. See, the worshiping of a deity was not to fall on your knees and then imagine some outside external force, out there in the universe somewhere. The worship of these deities was the actual farming of these seeds inside of us. So it's the true sense of the word cultivate, to cultivate these skills in us. So to worship Heru is to cultivate the skills of kingship, of managing, administrative, everything that deals with running something, being a boss, employer, and all that kind of stuff in you. Sia, perception, comprehension. You have reading comprehension, listening comprehension. The ability to make matter move by speaking it, not some spooky stuff like the words are going to just manifest something. No, you put words in together in such a way that it moves people to do something in a forward progressive way, to build something. That's how they manifest the temples. That's how they manifest the pyramids. They say the pyramids were done by some aliens or magical stuff, but it's the ability to move people. And today we call them motivational speakers. You have motivational speakers that get paid high price money to come in, speak to a crowd, and everybody's motivated. See, so we do these things to this day.
Yeah, you are saying that which was saying it's a key to find the art of persuasion in ancient Kemet.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Because
and that's
to motivate you need to be persuasive, and so we can easily say that the Sia and who are key aspects of persuasion, of the art of rhetoric, for example.
Yes. And another word, okay, that's a good word to put it, persuasion. How do you persuade someone? Because another word for that is manipulate. So we manipulate, we persuade, we convince,
Yeah,
right? You
yeah.
know,
Manipulate kind of has a bad it's not a good term to use it because it has low values attached to it now.
yeah,
Uh,
yes.
Persuasion is something more neutral.
Yes. That's why I said persuasion is a better word, but it's practically a nuanced way of saying manipulate, convince, coerce, persuade, propaganda, propagate, you know, all of these things kind of tie in into that, and that ability was actually the art of manipulation is falls under the deity Satuk, because he one of his reasons for being that's assigned to him was to be the manipulator. When he manipulated his brother Usir to get into the coffin only for him to kill him. That was manipulation 101 right there. Throw a
Yeah,
party.
the
Uh
bad side.
yeah. So that aspect of manipulation, um and also it's in the story of his birth too. And a lot of people are unfamiliar with why Satuk got a bad rap in the beginning. And I encourage people to read up on the birth of Satuk. There's a whole story. I forget the name of the text off the top of my head, but there's a text about the birth of the Ennead, the basic nine that we know about in terms of Geb, Nut, Shu, Tefnut, Geb, Nut, Usir, Aset,
Mu, something like that.
the Khenmu. Yeah, that's the eight though. That's the Ogdod. Um, but what I'm speaking about is the when you read about the births of Set or Satuk, he disrupts the pairing because we have Shu, Tefnut, that's a pair. Then you have Geb, Nut, that's a pair. Then you have Osir, Aset, a pair. Then Satuk breaks that pairing. And when the Egyptians describe his birth, he's the only one that was born out of, for lack of a better word, a C-section and not a vaginal birth. And so he came out the side of the womb and not the opening of the womb. And so that story is pinning on him a change and a manipulation in the way things are. And so he gets a bad rap altogether, from there forward. But a lot of people are not familiar with that, those kinds of stories there. But it's just interesting. But anyway, I just wanted to go over yeah, go ahead.
We have some popular accounts too. The account of the two brothers too. No, the spouse of one of the brothers manipulate the his husband to kill his brother,
Mm.
lying to him and convinced them. She manipulated him to kill his own brother. I don't know if you're familiar with the history.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, yeah, I think it's Inpu, and what's the other brother's name?
I don't remember now. I think it's the tale of two brothers or something like that.
Yeah, these are good stories for everyone to become familiar with. Tale of the Shipwrecked Sailor, Tale of the Eloquent Peasant, Tale of the Two Brothers, the man who's arguing with his ba, all of the Sabite, Amenopep, Ope,
I'm in the mop.
yeah, um, the wisdom or the maxims of Ptah-hotep, which is very popular. People at least know about that one. All of those, and then
The hymns, all the hymns are great too.
Yeah.
The eloquent peasant for me, is one of the most beautiful thing I ever read in my life.
Okay. Now I like to tell of Sinuhet, or Sinuhe as they say. It's very rich in
It's good too.
in terms of the value placed on your homeland and how the Egyptians saw their identity, because Sinuhe left. He's born and raised in Egypt all his life, decides to leave, makes a name for himself in a foreign country, elevates in the ranks of a foreign country, and when he comes back to be buried at home in Egypt, they were like, "Nah, you're not an Egyptian anymore." So he had to get reinitiated into the life of an Egyptian to be able to be buried at home, and to call it is his home. And in that story is where you get the name of the Egyptian language, Rani Kemet, as well. So it's very interesting. All of these stories.
I didn't remember that. I will revisit.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. All these stories.
Yeah, that what you said about Sinewe, that reminds me of like there was a time I hadn't been back home like in Kenya for like many years, and obviously like when you go back, you feel like yeah, I'm regular, I'm a local, but then people can actually tell that you're not. And I remember getting the expression all the time, like when I was out and about, and some people, obviously how tourists get taken advantage of like when you travel. And at one point I was asking, the guy, like I was trying to argue with somebody, like, I'm from here. And obviously I speak, the different languages and all that stuff. And, I look regular. But I remember one of the things that he said, and some other people also, kept saying was like, yeah, you might be from here, but you haven't bathed in the local waters for a while, that kind of thing. So so people always can tell, like, and it shows like when you haven't been when you're a local somewhere and you get away from it and you come back, there's always a difference, and people can tell that you're not fully them.
I like that. You haven't bathed in the local waters for a while, so you're dirty. You better go. You better go bathe.
Right.
Yeah, you better bathe in these local waters. That's funny though. That's not funny. It's interesting because that's what happened to Sinuhe. The women who welcomed him had to bathe him. That's interesting.
The culture is still embedded today.
Yeah.
So rooted that even without aware of it, it's embedded in the language, in the expression, in the figurative expressions.
Mm-hmm. Yes, man. So, and that's the thing. So studying Kemet, I know a lot of people who don't study it. They have so much to say and try to diminish or suppress how much can be learned from studying these cultures. Not that okay.
So sorry, but that is quite interesting because, for example, Asa made a presentation some of these days about the origin, the etymology of the word capoeira. Man, it relates to rapper. I mean, they it was millennials away from that culture. Obviously, they didn't have any contact with that, but it kept rooted in the culture. Even they speak in Portuguese, and the word is a variation of the word in Portuguese, and the explanation which the Europeans around here uses is that is a indigenous South America indigenous word to field to a way of made a plantation which the indigenous they say that the indigenous call it capoeira. And when Asa came up with that information, I mean, I said, wow, how it is possible? It's been so embedded in the culture in a way that even when you are far away from home, far away from the its own culture, far away from these roots, you still kept it in the culture. Like Emicat said, the sister Emicat said right now, something which is so away from the culture, so away from the knowledge of it, but it still is loaded with it. It's quite
Yeah.
interesting.
No, all of it is interesting, but it takes time and discipline and patience to see it all. Cause that's why for me, some things are like plain as day. And I know it's not automatic because it's not overt. You know, it's not overt, but if you stay with it, you'll see it. You know, and I
Yeah,
see. I love soil says it sounds good to go back home if you're welcomed by women bathing you. Capoeira, capoeira. Yeah, but Kepper,
yeah,
um, there's a lot of there's a lot of carryovers. There's a lot of carryovers. A lot of carryovers that the things that we say and do today is no different than ancient times. You know,
yeah.
no
The
different.
word the word shu ashe means shu. The shu around here in Yoruba, the shu is the divinity of the movement. Is the divinity of the word. Is the divinity which carries the power of the word. It's the I mean, basically is the divinity of communication, the movement, the life. Shu,
Mm-hmm.
then we go to Shu, which is the Neteru of movement,
Mm-hmm.
the wind, and
Mm-hmm.
it's the Neteru of communication because the air which goes out the mouth when we communicate. I mean, we can see the link.
Yeah,
Doesn't she
definitely.
mean breath as well? Question.
Well, Shu
Say
is.
what? Sorry.
Mhm.
I was asking
Go
if
ahead.
you
Go ahead.
means breath
Sorry.
as to like breathe, breathe out.
Well, Shu also is the other end of moisture. So it's dry, represents dryness. And Tefnut represents moisture. And so dryness would be the coughing and the sneezing would be the tiff, the spit. Like the word tifnut is the word tiff, and it also means to spit. And shu would be the cough. It's a blast of air. So the blast of air that we're using in language and speaking to one another is what is being referred to as shu, because we have what we call in linguistics terminology plosive. The B and the P are bilabial plosives, where the air is released as an explosion. That's why we say explosive, but we say plosive. The b, and the b, that's a P and a B. One is voiced and the other one is voiceless.
Yeah.
And so these are all. Now we don't want Tefnut involved in communication. We don't want people to be spitting while they talking, boy. Like, hey, how you doing? but we like Shu.
Yeah, I think my question is kind of pseudo because I kind of
Yeah.
remember them saying, it means the breath of the spirit or something like that.
Nah, but Shu is actually the feather of my eye as well. Like people ask, well, what is my eye? If my eye is my eye, then what is the feather called? The feather is Shu. And
Okay.
one thing about Kepper as a word, it means to the evolving manifestation, coming into being, and all that good stuff. But it represents this infinite, eternal change that is the constant in our universe. Because without it, we would live in a picture and not a movie. Because the actual movement of life is captured in Kepper, change, because change represents verbs in every language, instances of change on the backdrop of the static background, which is represented by substantives, adjectives, and adverbs. And so the universe itself can be explained by the language of language. And so you have substantives for substance, you have adjectives, which are attributes, qualities of substances. Then you have adverbs, which are circumstances that those substances are in. But what we're missing is the movement. And that's represented by verbs, which are instances of change. And Kepler is the infinite constant change and how things come in and out of existence. So the word means to come into existence, to evolve, to manifest. And the sun, when you see Kepler, what looks like it's pushing the sun, it's not. It's actually bringing the sun into existence. It's not pushing it at all, because dung beetles push the ball with their back legs, not the front. They bring the ball into being with the front, and so that's what the beetle is doing in the iconography of Egypt. It's constantly bringing the sun into being.
Yeah, it's one good way to translate it too in the category is to emerge, because it's literally the thing is emerging to our senses, to be perceived to our senses, and from the noon, from what is imperceptible to be perceived to our senses in the moments which Kepler made it emergent. So one good way to translate it would be emerge too.
Yep, that's exactly right. And when you said imperceptible, I had to make sure that New Heru was not around, boy. Boy, man.
I don't deal with that. I can't.
And he was in the
Yeah,
chat. He's in the chat somewhere lurking, boy. We about to see him come up in here, be like, yes. But no, what you said is right and exact right there. Nun, and that's what people don't understand. Like, we are the creator. Say we're looking for the creator, like THE creator. But we are the creator because we bring things into existence from not perceiving it and then perceiving it, that flow, that step-by-step process. And see, here's the interesting thing. If anybody who's listening looks around their room, like wherever you're sitting at, just look around the room, every single object that you're looking at, it represents a successful process. It represents a successful process because you're looking at it. That means it manifested itself. It went through some type of steps and process. But I see that it is 1 o'clock, a minute to the top of the hour, and I know I did this before. I kind of seem like I'm abruptly ending it, but yeah, we just want to limit the videos, to the top of the hour. So, anybody have any closing words?
No, just to thank you. I've my internet because it became unstable, and so I fall out. Thank you everybody for provide that platform, to provide that space to deal with this kind of commitment to the session with the Medew Netcher, with their culture. So I mean, really appreciate you. I'm learning to be more patient with you, Jao, because man, you have patience. So I'm learning to deal with that because I mean, all the things which was presented today, for coincidence or not, is something that I'm looking forward to. I mean, I was not in the description in script, but when I speak, I'm very reckless, even being a doctor myself. But I have a background of a athlete, of a boxing athlete. We at the boxing area don't are not so cautious with what we say and how we say things. We use a lot of images, and we use the language whatever we want to use. And I'm drilling myself to use the words in spoken way, with the same care which I have when I'm reading the academic text. So it's been a exercise to me, not just see you guys doing this, but myself training to do this, because in a debate is something more than necessary. Yeah, and even to not be misunderstood. So it's a great pleasure to be here with you. Thank you, and keep going doing the work.
All right. Well, you're definitely always welcome, and we appreciate you adding to the conversation and presence and everything. And I look forward to. I know you're going to be doing an interview coming up with Asar Motep, so I'm looking forward to that, and sharing your thesis or on the maximum of Tahotep and all that good stuff. And looking forward to you joining the class, because see, this is the thing. There's a lot to be said, and we go live and we talk and we have these discussions, but there's an element of a bit of careful of holding back a bit in these conversations, because just like anything in school or whatever, you have to kind of dance with where everybody's at in a comfortable zone and stuff. And so, like, a third grader in school, you're not gonna just all of a sudden talk about trigonometry and calculus 2 and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah, yeah,
or dark matter and quantum theory and everything. So I'm trying to get have build sessions where the prerequisites are already embedded in people, so we can kind of just rock out and have these discussions where we point to this, point to that, and things like that. So I'm building that up, and so far so good, so we're gonna keep doing that.
yeah. I'm preparing myself to be with you, and as soon as I'm able to do it, I surely will contact you guys.
All right,
That's
definitely. Okay, well, let me know. So anybody else, Emicat, Zane?
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you as well, Dua, for that breakdown. And I would definitely agree with what Dr. Duarte said about learning a little bit about the patients and how to explain things from you. That's something that we are all learning, because I am one of those people also that have like very short patience, especially dealing with adults. But that's something that we have to learn. But yeah, so that's something that we're definitely learning. And hopefully from today's show, we have there's nobody that's still left in doubt about the Dendera light bulbs. Those are not light bulbs. And if you've watched, or if you're going to watch it later in the archive, please share the video widely, because there are some people who are still being bamboozled out here, because everybody's out here trying to learn, and some people they're first meeting with this kind of information will be something pseudo. So share the video, because we do need to kind of balance the thing out so most people can get both sides, and then they can use their critical thinking. That's it.
And
All right. Yep.
yeah, I like to say that to bring up Asar's interview today, which I do look forward to seeing Duarte's interview as well. If I can recall, when you were just saying about everything around a child is something that's already completed and then created. Like, I can remember from Asar's interview today that I think his name is Pa Kofi.
Mm-hmm.
He was explaining, he was explaining that even with like through the lens of Africans, when they think of God and how they apply God to it, and it is in nature. it's really going back into the gods within each other, within ourselves. And when he said it like that, I thought to myself, like I agreed in saying that we are the creators of everything around us. So it makes sense that we are the gods within ourselves. And point is, it's like we created everything that we have today. So we are creators, and that's what the attribution, I want us for a better word. That's what the thing we do.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. And here's the thing. This is something for people to think about. God is there's an aspect of God that is agency. So if you were to just swap the word God and the creative aspect with the word agency, then we all have agency in our universe. And so here's the thing. People commonly think of God as creating for everyone instead of the God of you as you creating for yourself. And when you think of it that way, you have to think about perception, because you ask yourself, does a thing exist before I perceive it? And then you have to really narrow it down to say, does a thing exist to me before I perceive it? And the answer will be no. But the thing could exist to other people. And if that sounds like gobbledygook or whatever case is, here's a a demonstration of it. Prior to any of you all knowing me or coming in contact with me, I did not exist to you, but yet I existed. I've been on the planet since my age, so I have existed, but I did not exist to you until you perceived me, and when you perceived me, I manifested. You brought me into manifestation, but to you. And see, so that everything I'm saying, what it does, it puts agency at your core, at who and what you really are. And that is the self, because you're not something that is conscious. So, and hear this clear. I'm just going to leave, put this on your mind, right? On everybody's mind. We are not something that is conscious. The true essence of us. We're not something that's conscious. We're not. We are consciousness itself. And it sounds like a little change in wording. Like, oh, you're playing word games. No, think about it. We're not a thing that is conscious. We are consciousness itself. That is that is the self.
I mean, that's what causes us movements, right?
No, well, not necessarily. What I'm saying, what I'm doing, if you really contemplate on what I'm saying, it moves the focus or the agency right in the most center part of who and what you really are, which is consciousness itself. And because who and what we really are is consciousness itself, we will never be able to perceive that, because we are the instrument of consciousness. Therefore, we cannot see ourselves. We cannot be conscious of ourselves. And so, hold on, let me say this.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are the actual, and I gave this example the other night, and it turned into a long rabbit hole. But as an analogy, I used the eyeball. The eyeball can never see itself. Why? Because it's the organ of sight itself. Just like the organ of touch can never touch itself. So the agent of itself can never do what itself is. So the self can never perceive the self, because the self is the actual agent of consciousness. So we are consciousness itself. And because of that, we create. Because the act of creating is to manifest something outside of the self so that the self can have experience. And that is God. The self has to create to have experience. Because if the self had no other thing in existence, it would not even know that it itself existed. And so you have nu and the inverse when, to be. From nu or nun or ni to when, which means to be, to exist. And that's it. So the real us creates this vessel, this not vessel, but vehicle that we think is the real us, and then we act on it. So we're triggered by things. So we have feelings, we have emotions, we have this, that, and the third, but that's not the self. The self itself is always imperceivable, and it's always still. And that's the word hotep. So together we have imperceptible and tranquility, which is the phrase Amen Hotep. Amen Hotep. All right, so I'm gonna say
Yeah,
okay.
that's very deep. When you say that at the last encounter, the last two encounters, which the one I want summon eyes, now I want summon, but but, but I saw how deep is that concept, because for me at least, which I studied this for at least 10 years, is something very simple. But we are talking about a philosophical aspect, very profound, which is the ontology. I mean, the
Yep.
we're talking about nature itself, what it is, that thing we call reality, what it is, that thing we call perception, what it is, that thing we call knowledge. And that is, it needs a hard mental work to do.
Yep. Exactly. And it's not something that we could just microwave a discussion about and just run all over the place. You can't do it. That's why I don't talk about it much. But I'll say what I just said. I say that, and unapologetically, existence needs existence in order to exist. The self can do nothing of itself. It needs something else. And this creates the dual nature of existence. Nu and when. And everything is going to come down to a duality, because it has to be a reflection. And that's just it. And see, the people, what we can't fathom is an existence that is imperceivable, one, and then the reason why it's imperceivable. It's imperceivable because it has no form. But why doesn't it have a form? It doesn't have a form because it has no matter and no energy. Because remember, energy is a property of matter. Without matter, there is no energy. And so we can't fathom a matterless existence. And that's what the self is. And we can't fathom it because it's imperceivable. And that's it. That's just the bottom line. And that's all of us. That's everything. And I mean, it's clear. It's a like you said, it's a high ontological, philosophical discussion to have on it. But
yeah, it's like just like the distance in between stars. Like you don't know what's in between that or how far it goes. So
yeah, I
that's
mean,
inconceivable.
Well, yeah. Well, this is but see, there's no breaking that. And the imperceivability I'm speaking of, it's a permanent result of existence itself. It's a byproduct of existence itself. There's no breaking that.
Mm-hmm.
There like a car's headlight will never ever see itself. It will never ever shine on itself. It needs another object to reflect.
I can't. Like,
Yeah,
same.
it's so hard. Sorry.
My
Say it
bad.
again.
This is so hard that people like genius like Descartes, for example, was got for in that trap. We said which he is knows only his existence because he's conscious of itself, but he doubts that everything other than him, he's conscious, even his body, he don't know if it's real. So he fall in that trap.
Mm-hmm. And I ask people, see people who because it takes some thought, some marinating, and some thinking about this stuff. But I ask people questions that kind of lead them in that thought path and that path to think about stuff like this, which is like, for example, if I ask any one person, where do you live? And if I just blurt that out, where do you live? Everybody's gonna tell me an address. They're gonna be like, "Hey, I live in Georgia. I live in Florida. I live, whatever." And I say, no, I don't mean where your domicile. I'm saying, where do you, the actual you, where do you live in your body? Because we all say we have a body, and when we say we have a body, the word "have" is a word of possession. So we possess or have a body. So if you own a body or possess a body or have a body, then where are you in that body? Are you in? You out? Where? And every time I ask these questions, most people, the most answers I get different ones, but the most answers I get is inside the head. And I ask people, I say, well, why do you think that is? Why do you think most people say the head? If you had to name a body part where you live, like where you live, most people say the head. I said, why do you think that? And then, and through our discussion, we find out, or I let them know that the reason why most people think they live in the head is because the head contains 4 of the 5 senses, input devices. And wherever the stream of data comes in from, that's going to be where you think you live. So the eyes, the nose, the ears, and the mouth are all from the neck up. The only sense that goes beyond that is the sense of touch. Everything else is from the neck up. And so it's our sensory perception that creates the focus, the foci, and where you live. The you. But that's not, but these senses are not you. It's what you're utilizing.
Right. Okay.
You
Because
see
I was
what I'm
gonna
saying?
say even the sense of touch can be connected to the brain.
Well,
And can
yeah.
be disconnected too. So no, when you receive an anesthesia, the these senses disconnected with the brain in that moment, or even when you're distracted and you are afflicted with some damage, you only feel the damage when you see it, or when somebody say it about it. It's common which when we, for example, I mean, get some wound and start to bleed, until somebody say that we are bleeding, we don't feel pain. So even the touch itself is something which is too disconnected to us. So it's not us.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I see in the chat they said the brain processes. But check this out. Here's something interesting. I'm glad that I Love Soil said this. Everything we experience really takes place in the mind. Every single experience, and I'm stressing X on purpose, experience, the external experience, but the experience is actually processed or happens in the mind. It actually happens in the mind. So everything that we experience is really an internal thing. And so the seat of that consciousness is the mind. Egyptians knew it as the Ib. It's the seat of consciousness. So that's where you reside. So they say you reside in the heart. And they discarded the brain. Remember that. The Egyptians liquefied the brain and just sucked it out the nose of the deceased person. But they left the heart intact because the symbol of the heart is the word Ib, which is the mind. They knew it wasn't the organ as the brain organ. It's the mind. Because think about it. Where like, for example, you got people who don't believe in anything spooky. And that's really an excuse phrase to not deal with abstract concepts and things like that. They're real. So, for example, you got people who don't believe in that stuff, but yet you ask them, where does fear take place? What is fear exactly? What is fear scientifically? And where does it take place? And then we could discuss the nexus from the mind to the physical. So there's an actual point where the abstract meets the tangible. The intangible meets the tangible. At that thin spark, boom, right there. And so we could discuss fear. So fear, physiologically, we could describe it as chemicals being released, endorphins, adrenals, cortisol, adrenaline.
You feel like a heightened sense.
And certain things happen. But here's the thing. We can all talk about that all day. But the question, what triggered it? What triggered the adrenals to do what it does? The very first cascade, because that's a cascade of events. What triggered the very first event in that cascade of events that summarily comes out as fear?
Yeah.
Externally or internally?
It's internally.
No. I'm saying I'm not going to answer it. I'm just throwing that question out there, and this is for people who say they don't believe in spooky stuff, have to answer, and they can't.
Yeah, it's a good one. I have a friend which is a safe lifeguard, and we call him a Superman because he's good in every aspect of the physical performance. And he was swimming with a friend, which is a swimmer, not a professional swimmer, but a swimmer. And they were swimming in a river, in a long river around here. And the swimmer talked to me that he was surprised because swimming in a river is different from to swimming in the pool, because the current is a machine which never stops. So if you don't have the experience, you will be tired and eventually drown. So he got so scared that he grabbed a root in a swim and got there stuck. And the guy, which is a lifeguard, was swimming in front of him, and when he noticed that the friend was not by his side, he come back and took him and got it out.
Well, listen, I used to be a
environment which the same same, how could I say this, something which I mean a same external thing and two different behavior. and which trigger the two behaviors was internal things, knowledge of the environment, not the thing itself which gave the fear.
That's interesting because I used to be a lifeguard for quite a while, and I've had people who allow fear to definitely rule over their just reasoning, logic and reasoning, and fear will definitely do that. Where a person will be so fearful that they will drown, they will be drowning, I should say, in water where actually they could actually stand to where the water can be above their mouth and nose where they could breathe. But they don't know that. Like they fear, they think the water is too high or the bottom of it is too low, and they don't even attempt. And I've seen that all the time, happen all the time. But I have a question to Mika. I know she's not on here, but in the chat, Mika said that the mind is in the brain. So, Mika, I have the anatomy of the brain on the screen. So tell me where the mind is, if you don't mind. Enlighten us, please. Where's the mind exactly?
Great challenge.
Yep, Mika, where's the mind exactly? Is it in the central sulcus? Is it in the precentral gyrus? Is it in the frontal lobe, postcentral gyrus, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, cerebellum, the brain stem? How about the spinal cord, the temporal lobe, the sylvian fissure? Where's the brain at? I mean, where's the mind at? Which part? That's a question for Mika. Where is the mind? Okay, Dasharab said the mind is the brain. Brain equals ba, mind equals ka. Okay. Mika says in the frontal lobe. Well, guess what? If the mind is in the frontal lobe, check this out now. If the mind is in the frontal lobe does not fully develop until you're between the age of 21 and 25 years old. That means that you don't have a mind until you're 21 or 25 years old. That's crazy, Mika.
And then, I feel like, people that walk around from that brain damage that don't really have their whole brain. They still have a mind.
Yeah, we got instance where some people got damage, serious damage in one side of the brain, in the other compensate the lack of the region which is damaged, whether language or anything. So the scientists trying to mapping the mind, but it's impossible because the brain is very plastic. And I mean, if one part being damaged, other parts take place and do the same job that the other part doing. So it's not there. It uses it, but it's not the brain.
Yeah. So with that, I went an extra half an hour, and I'm definitely gonna close this out.
Yeah.
And
so what will you revisit next?
Oh, as far as the topic,
yeah.
I don't know, because this one was like on the spot, spur of the moment, because of the somebody showed me that post. So hopefully everybody understands that the light bulbs are not light bulbs, and that the temple of Het Heru was a temple dedicated to many festivals, and rightfully so, because Het Heru represents the aspect of joy and merriment and happiness and pleasure.
Sorry.
No, that's it.
Still got the question about the snake, the golden snake is something which we have to investigate further, or if you have the information to bring as soon as possible, or when you is able to. because it's something which instigates my curiosity. Because when you say that the which is a was a golden snake, I remember of the tale of the shepherd. Oh, I mean the seller. Certainly, it has to do with culture.
Definitely. All right, so with that, I'm gonna say, appreciate everybody tuning in, hanging out, and adding to the conversation, and all that good stuff. So we could revisit some of these topics and expound, but there's a lot of prerequisite things that people need to have under their belt to have certain discussions. Even what we just last talked about, the mind and brain debate. There's a lot of information that's out there from psychologists who deal with the mind, study of the mind and human behavior, to neuroscientists, people who deal with the brain, and all of its neurotransmitters, which are chemical instructions and all this other kinds of things. And they really need to get together to really figure this out, because there's really some really good books that posits ideas about this stuff. Some people view the mind or the brain as a holographic computer. If you understand how holograms work, and all kinds of things, it's really interesting.
Psychologist was great in this. I don't remember one. The English psychologist, the English psychology is one of the great in that field. I don't remember the classic one who studied that, but I mean, in another moment, I will remember and bring it. It's
Okay,
a good
yeah.
one.
All right. Okay, so I'm gonna say good night and fair, and Shalom Hotep to everyone, and hope everybody stay safe out there, y'all. Telling you the infection rate, the cases of dealing with the pandemic is on the rise again. I recently posted the stats, the graph that shows how it declined very, very well, very sharply, and then boom, comes right back up. So yeah, just be careful. All right, so I'm gonna say peace and Shalom Hotep.
Okay.
Shem Hotep, everybody.